You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
Everybody, welcome back to the Investor Shed podcast. You guys are in for a good one, aren't we, my co-host Jeremy?
And such a good one today. We got Leka Devatha on the podcast. Also, good morning to you, Nick. How we doing today? Pleasantries aside, we have a guest, and speaking of our guest,
It's Leka Devatha.
Yeah. Leka's great. I had a really good time talking with her. Multi-million-dollar portfolio, flipped numerous houses, co-wrote a book, has her own financing company. She's doing a lot of really cool things, and it was cool to pick her brain a little bit. So
Yeah, and not to mention, she is going to MC the Bigger Pockets BPCon, the Bigger Pockets event here this fall. So if you want to hear her on stage the entire time, which I do, come to Bigger Pockets, Big PCon in October. But if you just can't wait, stick around and actually listen to the rest of this episode. We know you guys out there. We know that most of you drop off as soon as you hear our introduction.
Listen, we have all the stats here, okay? So the stats, men and women lie in life, numbers don't, okay? So we look at those stats and we see that you're gone in 2 minutes. That just means you like the 2-minute intro. Thank you for that. But our guests provide a lot of cool value, and you're going to want to listen to the show because value is given.
Yeah, and definitely stick around to the end because she gets into some meaty, awesome tips. All right, let's just dive into it, huh? How about you pick the snack?
Oh, I'm going to pick the snack. Okay, what I think we should do is chips. I'm sure there's a name for this, but you're going to lay some chips down. You're going to put some cheese on top of these chips.
What kind of chips? Were we talking potatoes or corn?
No, like tortilla chips, okay? Tortilla chips, and then you want the cheese on them, and then beef meat of your choice. If you're a vegetarian, skip that part. Sour cream, onions, tomatoes, cilantro, salsa. There's probably a name for that, but I don't know what it is. So make that, and let's go.
Okay, and throw out the cilantro before you eat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Investor Shed podcast. My name is Jeremy Kitchen, here with my co-host, Nick Beveridge. How we doing today?
Doing great. I'm drinking an energy drink already. Good morning.
At 10:30 in the morning, we're rolling, so... I am so excited for our guest today. Today we got Leka Devatha on the podcast with us. Leka, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing today?
I am doing so great, and I'm excited to be here with both of you.
Yeah. Glad we could finally make this happen for sure. So I've been following Leka's story for, it feels like about a year or two now. We've kind of crossed paths at a couple different conferences. One of the first conferences I went to was the BP RoogieCon, and I noticed Leka was a speaker at that. Kind of just been following her journey since. So if you wouldn't mind, would you tell everybody how you got into real estate investing and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in India, and I moved here in 2006. I started investing in real estate almost a decade ago. I just happened to hear a radio ad for a house flipping company, and I got super intrigued, and that kind of got me thinking about investing in real estate. And so I started educating myself, then quit my W-2, bought my first project. And since then, I have flipped over 75 homes, full gut remodels, and then distressed property just became my thing. So I've done some other crazy deals like commercial office buildings, multifamily real estate, land development. So it's a whole bunch of real estate focused, amazing things.
So you're kind of a jack of all trades, it sounds like. You've been doing a lot of different things. Obviously, I want to touch on this a little bit, but do you have a favorite strategy you like doing, or do you just kind of like swinging wide for the fences and seeing what happens?
It's funny that you say jack of all trades. I am a jack of all trades, but I stick to the location I know best.
Sure.
So everything is in the greater Seattle market, which I just know the market. I have boots on the ground, and I have an amazing crew and a network that can help me do crazy things and, be profitable. But I do have a favorite strategy. It doesn't make financial sense. It's a fix and flip strategy.
Okay.
And then one that does make financial sense is anything that I can buy and cash out, refinance, and hold long term.
I love it.
Perfect. Yeah, expanding on that, I kind of agree with you a little bit. Fixing and flipping is like not the best financial strategy, but I love it myself too. I myself I've been flipping houses for about 10 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I always regret selling them later,
Yeah.
but it's such a fun process. I mean, and it could be horrible too. It could be a horrible process, and then but at the end, like when you get it all staged and you're like, "Oh, I love this house." I'm sure you're shaking your head, yeah, like you feel the same.
I know. I love this house. And then all the horrible things that went through
Mhm.
the process of flipping it, and all the things that broke, the things that you had to fix, the
Yep.
fires that you had to put out, it all just vanishes because you see the finished product and you're like, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always worth it. So I'm curious, you moved here in 2006, about a decade later, you heard like a real estate seminar was coming to town. Do you remember which conference you went to?
Yeah, it was actually the Fortune Builders
Oh yeah.
conference, and I ended up joining their mastery program. And I loved it. I don't think the program itself taught me much, but it did open me up to the Seattle network because
Right.
they came here and I ended up, going for the conference here. And so I ended up meeting a bunch of other Seattle investors who, the people that I went to that conference with in 2014 are still some of my best friends. There's one guy that still wholesales me off market properties, and I'm still buying from him.
Nice.
Another friend that's another local flipper that I just love and adore. Like, we are each other's competition, but we are just the thickest of friends. So I just think formed a great network.
Yeah, I've actually been like a real estate seminar junkie my
Yes.
whole adult
Mhm.
life. But yeah, the Fortune Builders, they put on like the one of the best 3-day seminars that I've been to. I think I've been to that 3-day seminar probably 4 or 5
Yeah.
times.
Oh wow! No way.
Yeah, I mean, they just jam pack information. It's cheap. It's like $200 and you
Yeah.
can bring somebody.
Exactly.
I try to resist the temptation of, signing up for the mastery program and stuff just because it's just not my thing. But I just love all the info that they cram into a 3-day weekend because most seminars you go to that do this approach, they really don't teach you anything. In my experience, they just get you hyped up to buy something, but they actually share a lot of great
Mhm.
information. They
Mhm.
teach you great tactics. Um, but I think Fortune Builders is awesome for that reason. But I'm glad that you had a great experience because I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of investors in this area as being a real estate agent and constantly going to these seminars whenever they come about. And I follow up with the people that do go through this mastery program. And I got to say, probably 80% of them just like they sign up, they pay for it, and they don't do anything. And then they go
Yep.
back to work, which maybe that's why I'm a little jaded.
Yeah.
It's more stats than anything. But can you talk a little bit more about what that experience was like?
It's a lot of like self-starter types,
Mhm.
because I'll tell you what it is. They have a bunch of course material, they have a bunch of education, they have a bunch of coaches that you can contact every week, every month. I think for 6 months you get a coaching call, I think one bi-monthly. So, and then you can pick your topic. So I remember initially I thought raising private money was ludicrous. I was like,
Mhm.
why would anybody give me money? Why would anybody sell me their house? Like, those were just concepts that I couldn't get over. And
Mhm.
so I remember the very first few coaches I picked were wholesalers, private money professionals,
Mhm.
and these guys had raised millions of capital by then. And I was like, wow, like if you can raise that much money in Atlanta, like I should be able to raise that capital here in Seattle.
Sure.
And then just, of course, hearing that from the coach and then taking away actionable steps, I think really set me up. So more than the course material itself, having that connection with the coaches, and then finding that local community that I can network with, talk about deals with, find deals from, find capital from, and then just going through the cycle of buying and selling, buying and selling. I think that was great. I'll tell you, a lot of people ask me if they should join one of a mastermind or a coaching program. 100% yes,
Mhm.
because in joining that program I was able to say, hey, there's not just the fix and flip strategy, there's the buy and hold strategy, there's a multifamily syndication strategy, there's you can be an LP on someone else's deal strategy, right? So
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
so many things you can take away from that, and it just gives you the overview in a nice format. better than Googling a bunch of things like what can I do in real estate or what different asset classes can I invest in. This is like a program that teaches you everything.
I mean, I would always really advise people not to do it if they're the type of person that doesn't take action.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the difference between that too. Like Lego was saying, like obviously I could Google something and I could just be spinning my wheels for days and weeks and months just by like, oh, that seems like a cool thing, and then on to the next one. I think with a mastermind though, you're more
Yeah,
inclined to take that action because you're paying for it and you're invested in it rather than just like,
exactly.
yeah, let's see what the drop of the internet says about this. So I see both sides for sure.
Yeah.
Lika, real quick, I want to talk about like I know you've been investing for a long time, but I do want to talk about how you started investing because I think that story is very spectacular and really cool. Can you dive into that for a little bit for us, please?
I basically networked with anybody that would give me 5 minutes of their time.
Hmm.
Hey, can you meet me for coffee? Great, let me take you out. And that included contractors, escrow agents, real estate brokers. I didn't even know what I was looking for. So I was just
Hmm.
like trying to find clues and piece together conversations on, okay, how do I go about this? And so, there were some decently failed strategies. Like I tried to direct mail campaign a bunch of people, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so for 6 months, nothing panned out, right? But at the same time, I also realized that talking to like minded people was my strength. And so I said, okay, why don't I just go to the deal finders? Because I'm
Hmm.
not adept at finding deals myself. Let me go to the deal finders and then find a deal. So
Hmm.
through my connections, I ended up finding a deal from a company that basically wholesale properties.
Okay.
And I asked to walk the property, and they said no. They said the seller lives there and you can't walk it. These are the photos, and we think it's a 60K rehab.
Hmm.
Now, having never scoped out a project, I was like, cool, 60K, these are the numbers, looks great on paper, let's do it.
Hmm.
Gave my earnest money deposit, and I was off to the races. Now, then we closed on the property, and when I walked it, I was like, oh, and I walked it with a few different contractors. And I realized that from what they were saying, that the price to rehab the property was more like 120K
Hmm.
because there was dry rot. My area obviously rains so much,
Sure.
and so there's a lot of like moisture buildup, mold in the attic. The electrical and plumbing was from the 1950s, so everything needed to be fixed up, which
Oh.
meant it was going to be a full gut remodel,
Hmm.
not a cosmetic update like I was told it was going to be. And then I walked 14 contractors through this project just to understand, like, because different contractors came up with different ideas, different
Hmm.
budgets, different scopes. And so I finally ended up going with the one guy that I thought I could learn the most from. And he was just amazing. And I showed up to work every day. We had a great relationship. I learned so much. Um, and then by the time we did the punch list walkthrough,
Hmm.
he was done. Like he was just like, I'm done with this project. I'm not making any money. And he was just bitter.
Get me out of here.
Get me out of here. Sadly, we had to part ways after that,
Hmm.
but it taught me so much. Everything from obviously fixing up a house to how to deal with a contractor.
Sure.
Um, and then I ended up selling that house for a $5,000 loss, which was fine. I did
Yeah.
make a much more significant loss, but I didn't have any capital going into this. So I took a
Hmm.
stock on my primary residence. That was what I used to start off the business. And
Yeah,
so,
I think that's fascinating because that's the same way I started too. But I'm going to circle back real quick about that, first deal. That sounds like a lot like my first flip that actually I partnered with Nick on.
Yeah.
We got a thing under contract from a wholesaler. Obviously, they're like, "Oh, it's cosmetic flip. You guys shouldn't need anything." We weren't allowed to walk the property until about 3 months later when the tenants let us in. The subfloor was missing. The roof was almost just caved all the way in. And what happened is
Yeah.
what was supposed to be a cosmetic, $20,000 flip ended up costing us $150,000.
Yeah, it was bad.
And you don't know what you don't know in this business, right? Like, and
right.
obviously now going forward, I'm like, you better believe I'm never buying a property again without being able to look on the inside of it.
We buy inspections on all our properties now,
Yep.
no matter what, or we don't close on them.
Yeah, and that's just a cost of business, right? That we learned so much, and we still have a lot of money in the deal, and we'll still make money if we sell it. But right now, we have it on a 5-year note with a hard money lender, and it's cash flowing, so we've stabilized it basically, and that's kind of cool.
With a hard money lender, like what were your rates at?
What are they? 8?
Yeah, we got it. They pretty much match what a conventional bank would do.
Yeah.
which was kind of cool.
Will you introduce me to them?
I'd be happy to get you that
Yes.
conversation going.
Off air, we will.
Yes, off air.
Perfect. Let's do it.
We'll get in touch with you on that for sure. He likes
Awesome.
Seattle. He likes Washington and Idaho.
Awesome.
But I do want to talk about your HELOC too, because like I said, I've
Yeah.
done that as well, and I think it's just a great strategy to be able to utilize what you have and utilize the equity in your primary residence
Yes.
in order to fuel your investing. So when you first got your HELOC, how much money did you get on your HELOC?
$150K.
Cool. That's a lot of money to do. I mean, that's a down payment on whatever you want. How many times have you used your HELOC in order to further pursue your investing?
To grow a pretty good-sized multi-million-dollar portfolio
I love it.
many times over.
Can we talk about that? Like, let's talk about your portfolio. Like, what do you have?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I own about 30 or so units in Seattle.
Okay.
I am part of a $30 million syndication in Orlando. So Seattle is expensive, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I buy property is by buying them distressed and raising equity by, remodeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my units cost a lot. They're like 400 or 500K a piece. So
Sure.
so it's a sizable portfolio, and I'm fortunate to just own like a piece of land here, a piece of land there, like that. I don't even know what I'm going to do with.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually do something with it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that actually, because you are in one of the more expensive markets in the country.
Mhm.
It makes sense now why you mostly got into flipping houses, because having rentals out there. I don't know about right now, but I remember a few years ago I was talking to investors out there, and they had to settle on like 0.5% deals were pretty common. Has that gotten any better or worse in the last few years as far as rental income in the Seattle area, cap rates?
So in fact, all of my rental properties are BRRRRs, and so I have no money in,
Nice.
which is great. And I can get up to 80 to 90%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been pretty good. I'm not even joking. Like I'll buy a property for 500 and I'll have to put in like 200K to fix it up.
Sure.
Wow.
Then, we do start stabilizing it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
say each unit rents for $2,000 and it's a fourplex. Suddenly the income now coming in is about $8,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I get a loan for say 850, and like the property appraises for 1.2 million. I'm pretty sure I just confused everybody. So bought it for 500K, put in 200K, property appraised for 1.2 million,
Mm-hmm.
which means the
Yeah.
bank gave me 850 to pull out everything. So cash out refinance,
Yep.
paid off my debt, took 50K home. And the property cash flows today after my mortgage and everything's paid off. It cash flows about $3,000 a month.
Did you say that was small multifamily?
Yes, it's a fourplex. And those are the only kinds of BRRRR deals like I'll hold.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, no joke, our fix and flip market is pretty lucrative.
Okay.
I've stopped doing any deals that'll net me less than a six-figure profit. So
I love it.
Nice.
it's been a while. It's been about 3 years since I did anything under 6 figures.
Awesome.
Okay, Leka, let's ask you the fun question then, because you've done an incredible amount of flips in the last few years. Is 70? You said 75 or so.
In the last 10 years, yeah.
I would like to know about your best deal ever, if you don't mind. Could you rack your brain and tell us about the absolute most lucrative fix and flip you've ever done?
And just fix and flip, not that morphing into something else. Just fix and flip.
I guess what? Yeah, fix and flip in your market. Tell us all about it if you don't mind, and then we can go into something else.
Okay. It was 2021. I bought just a simple, sweet split entry home in a neighborhood called Bothell. Bothell was so hot. So when the market crashed with the interest rate price and everything, Bothell went like that.
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
Bothell was so high, like it just went so steep high that then it had a long way to crash. So as it was going up, I broke some boundaries and barriers. So I bought this house for 700 or 720.
Mm-hmm.
I fixed it up for 135
Okay.
and I sold it, and I listed it for 1,050,000 and sold it for 1,250,000. And I
Wow.
made a 250K profit.
$250,000 on a fix and flip.
In 5 months.
Wow. Okay. So where'd you find that deal? Was that from like a wholesaler, or is that something your own marketing, or?
No, so this is the thing, right? I think if you get really good at doing what you do and people know that, like people see that, people know that, then if someone found a deal, they're going to come to you first because they're like, look, even if I have a shitty deal, which I don't think has too much meat on the bones,
Hmm.
she can turn it into something else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And she turns it into something else. She just took my deal and made it profitable, which means people then have more credibility in me. And
Hmm.
so that's how I have built my relationship with my wholesalers. I don't buy from a lot of people. The couple people that I buy from, it's always so good. Like I turn it into something so good that then they get spoken about because they sold me such a killer deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they constantly pick up the phone. They're like, hey, we have this deal. This is perfect for you. Let's do it. And when my wholesaler brings me a deal, like he knows and I know that I will never buy it if it's a shitty deal, it's on a bad street or like it's
Hmm.
on a cliff, it's on a double yellow line. Like I'm just not going to touch those. So they have
Okay.
to be the perfect deal. I don't do basement dig downs. Like it has to be a height, like the right size basement, right? So they
Hmm.
know all that about me. And so then they bring me this deal and I make magic out of it. And so
Awesome.
uh, so that's pretty much how we roll and how I buy my deals.
I think that's great. It sounds like, you're super hyper focused on what your actual criteria is, and I think that is a problem with a
Yeah.
lot of investors. They see what's called a quote unquote deal, and they're like, "I need to buy this," and it's like, what's your plan with it? Like, what's your exit strategy? What are you gonna do with this in order to make it what you think it is? Because again, I think people, they tend to panic buy because the market goes up and everything like that. Um, it's been a weird time for sure over in Idaho. I'm sure it has been over in Western Washington too. So.
Yes, it has been. And I think, you know, what it is I do that too.
Hmm.
I'm always chasing after what I'm passionate about. Like I knew nothing about office buildings and I bought an office building in the middle of COVID. But the reason I can do that is because I have one constant in my
Hmm.
business, which is my fix and flip, which is my active income. And I have nailed that to the point where I can put a house even in a bad market or but I just know how to position it. And it's not that I'm invincible or I'm boasting about it. It's just that I have learned so much from all the mistakes I have made personally
Hmm.
to be able to do better things with my future projects.
Exactly.
Nice. So like you're like totally speaking my language because I understand, you've been you've been hosting this meetup for like 5 years, right?
Yes.
In your local market. So you're kind of known as like a local expert there.
Hmm.
Whether you are or not, you're hosting the investor meetup. So people just kind of see you as that. I've been doing mine for 8 years now. And I noticed after a couple of years, people started seeing me as the expert investor in the market just because I host the
Yeah.
meetup. Soon after, I think after 2 or so years, the majority of all of my clients were all of a sudden wholesalers, and I was kind of their go-to guy to like help analyze deals and be the first buyer. I feel like maybe we're kind of in similar positions. Like be hosting a monthly meetup has like really helped
Yeah.
put you in a position where you can be kind of more trusted than most people.
Hmm.
Right.
And especially with wholesalers just looking to uh, hand it off to somebody that they know is going to close the deal. So I think that's awesome. You said you've never missed a meetup, right? You've been doing
No.
it 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah, consistency helps.
That's awesome. Real quick, I want to plug that. So, can we talk about your meetup? When is it? What days of the month is it? And how can people get involved with that?
Yeah, so it's typically the second Wednesday of every month, unless a speaker can't make that. And it's hosted at my office building. It's and my event space. It's called Atmosphere,
Hmm.
and it's in downtown Seattle. And it's a 2 hour meetup. What we do is we get together, we meet, we network for the first hour, and then we interview our speakers for the second hour. And then people stay on and network some more. It's just a really good platform. I think like I've seen deals being made like in front of my eyes. It's so
Hmm.
it's pretty incredible to see that. People that came to meet up last November or December come back now. They're like, hey, we have our first deal on a contract, or we just sold that flip we
I
were
love
doing
it.
back then. Like I love that growth. Like I love watching people grow and finding their community and saying, hey, I found my contractor at your meetup, or I found my lender at your meetup. So it's pretty amazing.
Hmm. I mean, I've only been in the meetup space just vicariously through Nick's for a couple years now. But just doing this, I've gained so much traction. Like this month, I hosted Craig Kirloff's House Hacker Meetup. I'm
Yeah,
hosting another
same.
meetup in 2 weeks, and I'm like, I just put it out in the universe that I want to speak at these things, and people are like,
Yeah,
"Hey, do it! Come on!" And it's good exposure for everybody because I think I provide a lot of value, and hopefully people get something cool out of it. So
exactly.
it's always just really cool talking to people too. Like, and that's how this business works. You get all these people together, you get these contractors, inspectors, realtors, investors, and hey, you're all in the same room. Talk to each other, right?
Exactly. Exactly right.
So, Leica, when you got into investing, were you just doing fix and flips, or did you have another job? Can you tell us a little bit about how you spent your day?
So I did have a full time W-2.
Oh,
It
okay.
was so I worked at Nordstrom Corporate. Nordstrom, the retailer, is headquartered here in Seattle, and so I was in brand merchandise strategy with them, and I set up my company and everything. I got all the incorporations done, and then I started looking for deals, and I started looking for people to talk to, and then I realized that everyone that I wanted to speak to was also working the same hours that I was working,
Hmm.
which is why I ended up just, giving up my W-2 and jumping into this full time. It was such a sad day, I remember, because I loved what I did. I was in the middle of fashion, and it was just like just made me happy. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I was like, okay, if I really want to get after this, I have to do this full time.
Gotcha. So, how long did it take you to quit your job?
It took me about 3 or 4 months.
Oh, okay. So, like right away.
Right away.
Pretty
Right away.
much.
Yeah, and it's not like I spent years at my W-2. No.
So, can you take us through an average day for a fix and flipper? I know you do a lot more than that now, but if somebody wanted to flip properties for a living, can you give us an idea what does an average week or day actually look like?
I am always underwriting deals. I'm underwriting deals even when I'm not buying deals, because I just want to keep up to the date on what the market's doing. I'm always going to be in escrow on something,
Hmm.
and I'm always going to be in the middle of a rehab. And I can't think of a time that I haven't been in escrow or rehab since 2014.
Gotcha.
Um, it's about going out and walking properties. It's about meeting with contractors. It's about going to the job site and, designing stuff, meetings with architects,
Hmm.
talking to lenders, networking with other investors. You never know who can be a private lender or a wholesaler at any given point.
Yeah.
Or you just don't know who, like if I want a plumber, an electrician, it's my network is who I'm going to. And then I'm also always looking at, okay, what is the next big thing? Like what do I want to do next? What do I want to learn next? So what is that new learning curve I'm going to put myself in front of?
Is there anything that you do different when you fix up properties that maybe most investors don't do?
Yeah, so I have friends, guys mostly, that if they're fixing up 6 homes, then they're putting the same tile, the same, light fixtures, the same paint in all of their homes.
Yeah.
I just have never done that. Like I like designing every home differently, whether it's a $300,000 home, which is seldom in my
Hmm. Right.
in my city, but or it's a $1.5 million home. It's like there's the finishes are what ultimately sell, and so I'm always picking different finishes, different floor plans, making them as versatile as possible.
Hmm.
Like a double office or a master and the main. Like those are things that I try to incorporate. It is hard because it's not new construction, it is a remodel. So that is hard, but it's about how can you take something and make it as versatile as possible.
Design wise, because it seems like you're probably in a position where you're probably up to date on what's going on with design in the country.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything that maybe fix and flippers are doing these days that they probably shouldn't be design wise, like using oil rub bronze or you putting gray everywhere, paint color, those kind of things? Do you have any tips for the fix flippers out there?
The one thing that I always see, the houses that sit on the market for a long time are the ones that haven't been fixed up
Hmm.
100%. Like the flipper just got ran out of money, got lazy, whatever it
Hmm.
is, but it's not done to the T. Um, there's like, things that are falling off the hinges or switch plates that are not accurate. Like design wise, you can make a mistake. That's fine. Like you pick the wrong color tile, you pick the wrong color, wrong wall color. That's all fine. But the minute a buyer walks in and says, oh, this feels cheap,
Hmm.
or this is missing a glass door, or something like that, then they start digging into, okay, what else is missing in this house? Like,
I agree. I think it only takes, one mistake. Obviously, like Nick and I are working on a flip right now.
yeah.
It's basically done. And we was talking to him this yesterday, but the front door, like when you open it, it kind of sticks a little bit. And I'm like, that's the first thing people are going to see when they walk in this house. Like that front door, you have to shove it open. I wonder what else they're going to call out.
It's a brand new front door.
It's a brand new front door.
I was talking about this with one of my contractors, that
Hmm.
when a broker puts that key in, it just depends on how long it takes them to get inside the house, because that's time, precious time, that he's standing outside the house with their buyers
Hmm.
talking about this house. And so if that process is not streamlined or smooth, then it just feels clunky already.
I
So you
agree.
just have to make sure that the lock and the key, and oftentimes it's hard because you've just painted this door, you just put in that lock box or that
Hmm.
key box. So it's hard.
Always trying to figure that stuff out for sure. You constantly underwrite deal. I want to dive into that a little bit, Leka, if
Yes.
that's okay. What does your underwriting process look like? Like for a newer investor like me, I can roughly underline a deal or underwrite a deal, but obviously the more you do this, the better you get. And what numbers are you looking for? Like, what are you specifically looking for when you go in a deal? I know you said you go for the six figures, but is there anything that you do that makes that happen?
Before, I'd have to walk a property to come up with the accurate scope of work. Today,
Hmm.
I can just look at it and be like, okay, this is going to cost me 120K to fix or
Gotcha.
200K to fix. So when you look at like even if you're just looking at photos of the house, right? How many windows does it have? Do they need to be fixed? Does the siding need to be repaired? Does the roof need to be fixed? Does and this is just the exterior, right?
Hmm.
Landscaping. What does that landscaping budget look like? Because I just want my houses to look beautiful on the outside. So there's so much amazing curb appeal. If the buyer walks in and they're like, wow, I love this house already, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So what is that landscaping budget going to cost me? Is the fence okay? Like does the fence look good? Then the minute you walk in the house, there has to be like that wow factor. So are you opening up walls? Are you vaulting ceilings, right?
Hmm.
Thinking about all of that, are you opening up spaces? Like I open up every kitchen, just
Gotcha.
because the great room concept is what sells over here.
Hmm.
Having two bedrooms on any floor is a bonus, because most buyers these days are younger buyers that are techies that have the money that want to buy this house, right?
Hmm.
They're going to have young kids. So having one master suite and then having a couple of little bedrooms is like a total bonus. But having a master suite, it is so important. For example, I just sold a house in 4 days, even in this market.
Oh
Sold a
wow.
house in 4 days. The house literally on the street next to mine, also equally flipped up, maybe not as designed, forward as mine, but it was fixed up. That house sat on the market for 4 months. Now, I spoke to the broker right when I bought my house. I was like, hey, why is this house still on the market? Or like, what are you guys doing with it? And he said,
Hmm.
look, we did not put a master suite. So
Okay.
there's three bedrooms on the main, there's two bathrooms, but there's no master.
Gotcha.
Oh,
And everyone
rookie
who walks
move.
in wants a master suite. And so when I bought my house, I was like, okay, I'm going to be mindful about making the master even grander. And
Hmm.
so I just like took down two bedrooms and converted that into a huge master, and it just looks spectacular. Being able to see that just through the pictures and saying, okay, where can I put that? Can I even put a can I put a master? Can I put another room? These are just little things that I pick up on. And then it tells me, okay, how much money do I have to spend on this? Then there's holding costs, which changes deal to deal because hard money rates go up, rates go down, like whatever it is, right? Whatever
Hmm.
the market's doing. So then based on that month's hard money rates, that's how my financing costs get derived. And then there's other metrics like your holding costs, property taxes, insurance, and then there's staging costs,
Hmm.
photography costs, and selling costs. These are all the numbers that get plugged into a spreadsheet. So then I go into my spreadsheet, I'm like, okay, purchase price is this, rehab cost is this, what is my ARV going to be?
Hmm.
This, what is my profit? So you plug in all the different metrics to
Gotcha.
then derive at your profit.
Yeah, I gotta agree. It's crazy how some people like don't take into consideration that, we're in the 2020s. People want master bedrooms.
Hmm.
Like
Exactly.
the last two fix and flips I got into, we were just finishing up one yesterday, but both of them were 3 bedroom, 1 baths.
Yeah.
And we were able to, on both these properties, take a spot where, close to a bedroom and turn that into a master
Yep.
and add a bathroom, turning these into 3 bedroom, 2 baths. But I mean, to actually, if there's a spot for it and it makes sense, and if it's easy to access the plumbing, we're talking like it's like $5,000
Hmm.
to add a bathroom and turn it into actually give a house a master suite, and you can
Right.
up the value like 30 to 50 grand. So it's all about just getting a good return and trying to bring it up to date of what
Yeah.
buyers kind of expect, and then being at a price point where it's just a bargain. At least in my market, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
We always try to be the best price.
Best looking, best price is what we go for sure. So, and that's how it has to be because it's competitive up here, and I'm sure you can agree with that, like us. So,
I always say just deliver above market quality for under market price.
hmm,
And it's a surefire win every single time.
I love it.
Yeah.
And real quick, so on most of your deals, I know you said that you get them from wholesalers, correct? So they come directly to you, correct?
Yeah.
Now, when you're looking at these deals and say a deal doesn't quite meet your numbers or your expectations, are you still putting an offer in with these wholesalers, or are you putting it in an offer that works for you?
So most of the deals that I get are off market with the wholesaler, and the wholesaler is like, hey, this is my price.
Gotcha.
So I'm never negotiating.
Okay.
Either that price works for me or it doesn't. Or like sometimes I just, negotiate for longer feasibilities. Sometimes I ask for an inspection, a sewer scope.
Hmm.
But I'm very seldom am I saying, hey, knock it down 50K.
I just wasn't sure. I mean, like our wholesalers up here, they give us that option, but nobody ever does because typically it goes whatever over whatever they're asking anyway. I just wasn't sure how it works over there and what that relationship looks like, because if the relationship's good and they know you can perform and they're getting their return anyway, like it's still a win-win for everybody.
Exactly.
That's what we try to make with this stuff for sure.
Yeah.
I know you talked about hard money too, and I want to talk about the hard money that you do as well. Can you talk about your company for that?
My hard money lending company is called Loans by Leka, and we do fix and flip deals, bridge loans, long term rental property loans, new construction loans. Yeah. So the whole shebang. And we've been in business since 2017.
Okay, very cool. And with your hard money rates, you said they're fluctuating a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Like right now, experienced investors are, I think, at a 10.25%.
Hmm.
And one point, before I used to be like 7 or 8%.
Sure.
So it's just, the cost of money has gone up.
Yeah.
Yeah, one point's not too bad though.
Yeah.
No, no, not at all.
Yeah. I mean, we do it too. I mean, obviously, but it just depends on the deal. So we don't exactly give you a number like, yes, it's going to be 1 point. We look at the deal and we underwrite the deal saying, like, this one's a little bit more risky. Your percentage is going to go up a little bit, or your points are going to go up because we have to incorporate other investors in this deal. It is fluctuating for sure, but it stays in rough parameters.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's cool because you get to actually use that company too. And since you started this company, you get to have kind of first dibs on the money.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you said you've also you do the burr strategy as well.
Yeah.
Um, how long did it take you until you started keeping some of your properties as rentals?
That is such a sore subject. I think my first burr was 2017. So 3 years after I started investing. And coincidentally, I listed my first burr for sale yesterday.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I bought this property for 128. I fixed it up for I think another 15 or 20K.
Hmm.
And it's been rented ever since. Not a day of missed rent. And I just listed it yesterday for 400K.
Nice.
Yeah. So I did my first burr back in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have that house, and I've burred it 3 times now. And I bought it for 29 grand
That's
back in the
insane.
day,
Yeah.
and I did a lot of the work myself. I think I spent another 9,000 or 10,000 fixing it up.
Wow.
The value today is somewhere in the 200s, and I can burr it again if I want. It's
Yeah.
the burr that just keeps giving, and it's been rented ever since. It's actually the rent's kind of low. I can probably bump it up a little bit, but I wish I would have got started sooner too.
Exactly.
It's a hard thing, right? Like, I mean, I'm in my mid-30s. I recently just started, and since I've been introduced to real estate investing, it's changed my life. Like, I'm
Yeah.
slowly gaining traction. Like, I'm not on the level you guys are at with your multi-million dollar portfolios. I got a rental, and that's cool. But
You'll
it's
get there.
traction, right? Like, it's a move in the right direction. It's proof of concept that this stuff actually works, and that
Works.
I can continue doing it. Do you have any advice for anybody who's kind of getting stuck in real estate investing, and like how they'd be able to overcome those humps?
Yeah, it just depends on how you're getting stuck.
Hmm.
Say you can't find the capital, then you're just not looking in the right spots. Network more, get on more podcasts, come on this podcast, right? And then talk to people about what you're doing. And then once you put good energy out there, you're just going to attract it back. And then if you're getting stuck on finding deals, which is the biggest farce ever, because I can find a deal in any market, any environment,
Hmm.
hot, not, whatever it is. You can find deals on the MLS or like on your market, on market, and then you can, and if you don't find deals that way, go on Craigslist, go to wholesalers, right? And then start analyzing deals. And the minute you start to tell wholesalers, hey, I'm going to show up to the property, I'm going to walk it, I'm going to look at it with you, then you are going to start finding deals. If you just don't know what you're doing and you just need some direction, I would say go and find a mentor.
Hmm.
Go find your Nick and Jeremy in your local market, and then partner with them and say, okay, hey, I'm going to add value somehow, right? A, I have the capital. B, I have the deal. C, I just have the hustle. And I'll show up to the job site. I'll take photos for you. I'll work with your contractors. I'll project manage this thing. And then just understand their process. Okay, how are they successful in doing what they do? And then how is that going to make me unstuck? And
Hmm.
so I would just say, like, you're only getting stuck because of your own doing,
Hmm.
right? So it's, you have all the power to get unstuck.
That's true, and I like what you said there. It really finding deals. It comes down to one of four things. You've got time, money, deal flow, or like you said, hustle. If you can bring one of those things, that's a benefit to a team. Obviously, the money and the deal flow are the two main ones. But if
Yep.
you have time, you can door knock for somebody. You can hustle, and you can just learn some skills. There's ways you can just get started and just provide value. And I think that's just a great way to do that.
Oh, I want to ask a question. How'd you get involved with Bigger Pockets? Because that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. So my good friend Tarl Yarber
Hmm.
partnered with Brandon Turner to host a mastermind in Maui. And he messaged me probably because maybe one of the other attendees couldn't make it. But he messaged me and he's like, hey, we have a spot. Like, you should come to the Maui Mastermind. And this was 2018.
Hmm.
And I was like, what is the Maui Mastermind? Who is Brandon Turner? Like, what is this? Tell me
Hmm.
about it.
Who's
And
Brent
so
Turner? How dare you?
I know. I don't know. I guess I didn't follow Bigger Pockets or the podcast as much back
Hmm.
then. And so he was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the Brandon Turner. Like, he's so cool. You got to know him." And so I said, "Okay." And then I ended up going, like, completely not knowing what I was getting myself into. Right.
Hmm.
My two very good friends, Charles McKinney, that started Certain Lending, and James Daynard, who Jadane Flips. He's a goat. He is someone I've been buying deals since 2014. So the two of them were also going to go. And I was like, great, it's a party. Like, let's all go. So I ended up going to the mastermind. Obviously, Brandon is so wise and so good at what he does. Like,
Hmm.
he was just such an inspiration right off the bat. And I was like, wow, I just really like him as a person. Like, I just want to get to know him more.
Hmm.
Is what he preaches about. Like, he actually follows, and he's, and he says some really sensible things,
I
whether
agree.
it's
Yep.
eating healthy or like doing good deals or finding partners, whatever it is.
Hmm.
This is a true story. One night we were all invited to this beautiful outdoor dinner, and after that, the group, we went off to this beach, and it was in the middle of the night, like at 11 p.m., and
Hmm.
the whole group went in the water. And Brandon and I were talking on the side and missed the group, like the group left in the water. And Brandon and I were just standing there under the stars and having the most amazing conversation. And he asked me about my business and what I was doing. And,
Hmm.
I was talking to him about his. This is before he started Open Door Capital. And so we just became really good friends after that. So then I came back from the Maui Mastermind, and he sent me a note and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come on the Bigger Pockets podcast?" And I was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
And that's it. And then a few months went by, and this was February 2020. I was on a ski lift in Whistler, and I got a message from his producer saying, "Hey, we want you on the podcast. Can you fill this form out?" I literally fell off the chair because I was so excited, because by then
Yeah.
I heard the podcast. I loved the people that went on the podcast. And so I was really excited. But that form was so long that I just failed to fill it out. And then a couple of months went by, and his producer is like, "Hey, can you fill out that form?" Right?
We're waiting.
We're waiting. We want you on the podcast. So I then filled it out, and then COVID happened, and I was like, "Oh, great! That's the end of the podcast. They're never gonna have me back on." But it's, Brandon being Brandon, and the producers are just so good that they actually followed up and taped my episode, and it turned out that it came out on Brandon's birthday that year. So it's
Okay.
his birthday episode. But anyway, I think that just got me involved with the Bigger Pockets community, just the podcast and everything. People love my content and what I was doing. I was, truly like working hard and hustling and not just talking about it on social media.
Yep.
And then I got asked to speak at the Rookie podcast, which was great. The last week I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be on stage like 4 times, and I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm on stage." And it was just great, Jeremy. I love being there. Like everybody was so invested. It's very different from a multifamily conference.
Oh, yeah.
Where multifamily, I think all the networking, like everything happens outside the conference hall,
Right.
in the hallways. But with a residential conference, everyone's actually inside the hall, listening to the speaker, asking great questions, being super engaged. That was just a really fascinating conference to be part of, and I got great connections coming out of it. But what I didn't realize at the time were the host of the future Bigger Pockets conferences were all present because it was in Denver. And then they watched me, and they decided back then that they should have me MC the conference at some point. I just got asked this year to speak. So I'm actually speaking a session with James. James and I are talking about just the fix and flip strategy and management and whatnot. And then the following week, I got this great champagne bottle that asked me right there.
Oh, how fun.
Asked me to MC.
Yeah, bring it on in. Let's see it.
Conference.
That's so cool.
BPCon 2023. Nice.
Right. And I was I saw it. I was like, "What?" I thought I was speaking at the conference on emceeing. I was like, these guys are so witty.
Yeah.
And so they asked James and I to MC the whole conference. And so that's kind of what happened.
I love it. You guys are a perfect fit to MC that too. Obviously, I've been following James for a long time. He seems like an incredible dude. He was at the Bigger Pockets Rookie Conference too, and this was the first conference that I legitimately went to.
Yeah.
What's weird is like I was incredibly timid at that conference. I had to talk to like 2 people that entire time.
That's like so not you.
I know it was bad, but like it was it was scary. But now I'm like way over that fear, and I'm like, I'll just talk to anybody. It doesn't matter. Like if you don't like me, whatever. I don't care. But
yeah.
Just crazy how like, the world keeps rolling into itself, and I think you guys are going to be really good hosts for that.
Yeah. Well, first off, for people that want to go to that event and see you speak at MC, what dates is it, if you remember? And how do they get tickets? How much is it? And can they hitch a ride with you? How's
that? Sure.
Yes to all. I love it.
It's October 15th to the 17th. It's in Orlando, and it's going to be a party. There's 2,600 attendees. I just remember last year where people were scrambling to get tickets at the last minute and no one could get it. And it was just so bad because, people kept asking me for it. And I'm like, I'm just an attendee. Like, I don't even have tickets. But yeah, I say if you want to come for it, go get your tickets now. I want to say that about $985. I'm not.
I think it depends on if you're a pro member too. Just do your own due diligence on that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly.
But yeah, that should be good. I need to get my ticket for that one too.
Is there a special coupon code that you know of that we can?
That's what's so sad is like people ask me that too all the time, but they don't have any coupon codes. Zero.
Okay. Yeah, I might as well. I just wanted to check.
Yeah.
I know. So I'm like, I no, even for me, there is nothing.
The cool code is it's a tax write-off because it's a business expense. So if you want a
Right.
coupon code, claim it on your taxes.
Exactly.
Like real quick, I want to talk. So with doing all your strategies and everything, are you a real estate agent as well?
Yes, I
Wow.
am.
Okay. Who are you brokered through?
Keller Williams.
Okay.
Ooh,
Nick is
K-Dub in
too.
the house.
Yeah.
Me
K
too.
Oh, you
Dub.
too? Oh, sweet.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've got
Awesome.
the tramp stamp on the back of my uh a KW tramp stamp.
Yeah. Nick always jokes. He says, if someone cut open his veins, he would bleed like KW logos, and I think he said that on one of our episodes. Can you talk about the benefits of being a realtor and an investor at the same time?
I honestly, I think if you're new, focus on one or the other
Okay.
Yeah,
because you don't want
totally.
to get so like confused. Basically, investing is a different. It's like a different beast
Hmm.
compared to being a broker, and you have to show up to both. So how can you do both and be successful at both? When you don't give it your all, it's like having two different W-2s, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
When you multitask, you do a bad job at both.
Yeah.
both, yeah.
It's kind of like if you want to go fix and flip houses and then you ask, well, should I get my contractor's license and buy this dump trailer? You know?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah, they're different jobs.
Hmm.
Yeah. I didn't become a broker till I knew what I was doing with my fix and flip business. So it took me a good 3 or 4 years to become a real estate broker. So till then I hired the best brokers in that neighborhood to sell my homes, and that was it. But being a broker, the way that has helped me is it gets me in front of other real estate brokers,
Hmm.
at broker events, whatever. And not a lot of people, sadly, not a lot of brokers invest. And so when a broker actually, I found some of my best deals through my office because they're like, distressed property. The only person that knows what to do with it is Leka.
I love
Let's
it.
give it to her. So
Yep.
let's give it a call, right? So that's kind of sad, but it works for me, and that's a big plus. But also, like, having access to the MLS is great for as an investor. But I just want to also be super clear that investing is where I put most of my energy into. The brokerage side is super fun for me, and I'll do it for my friends, family, and people that actually seek me out. But it's never one that I advertise because it's just somewhere in the back burner that yes, I'm also a broker.
And that allows you to save on your commissions when you're buying or selling anything too, if you're doing any on market stuff. So I mean, there's pluses, but obviously, like you said,
Yeah,
focusing on one I think would be a good spot for most people to start for sure.
for sure. Yeah.
Nick, before we get in the rundown, is there anything else you want to cover?
No, just to add to that, should I get my license or not? If you haven't done a deal yet, don't.
Don't.
Yep.
Do 1, 2, 3 deals first,
Exactly.
before you just start trying to do everything but do a deal. Because some people just get stuck in analysis paralysis, and they also like, oh, well, I should get my license too, and I should do everything before I do a deal. Do a deal first. If you really like the industry, then get your license later.
Exactly.
Now, before we actually get into the wind down questions, I have one more thing I wanted to touch on. Leka, did you help write a book?
Yeah. So one of my best friends, Ashley Wilson, had this idea for women to, just from her own experience, contribute to a book called The Only Woman in the Room.
Hmm.
And what was cool is that we each got to write a chapter about
Okay.
how we have been the only woman in the room in our lives, in our investing careers. And so, I mean, through that, there's some incredible chapters that I didn't even know these people went through those life experiences, or, that's how they felt. But it was great. It was really good.
Writing a book is on my list, but it's very far down the list, unfortunately. So we'll
Yeah.
get to that eventually, I think.
Just have ChatGPT do it.
I'm not gonna have Chad GPT write me a book.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Well,
put my own personal
yes, you
flair
will.
into it. All right.
Everybody will someday.
All right. Real quick. So I know you said you talk about your goals and you're always moving forward, Leka. What are your 5-year plans, or what are your 5-year goals? Where do you see yourself going in the next few years?
I just want to build like a really solid, like I'm so, do any of you feel the same way? Like you have all these rental portfolio, like this, all these rental units, all these fix and flips, but you just are the poorest rich person you know. So
Mm-hmm.
over the next few years, I think what I want to do is just make my portfolio so solid that I'm not putting money to grow it every month, every year, that my portfolio is just growing on its own. And I'm not talking about net worth. I'm actually talking about cash flow. Um, because the net worth is great. It's
Right.
amazing. Like,
Yeah.
on paper, I'm just such a rock star, right? But it's like things are always breaking and there's not enough room to fix them and stay positive, right? So that's kind of what I'm getting at, whether it's the portfolio that I own today, or it's, I, I think I'm going to keep adding units to it, but just being profitable.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
that's so well said. I mean, I've kind of made it my 2023 mission to just stabilize this year. I mean, I bought
Exactly.
enough crap, and there's plenty to work on that I already bought to
Mm-hmm.
improve.
You're
And
100% right. I keep
yeah,
saying this year is about stabilizing my existing assets.
yep. I'm taking a break from buying everybody for just a few months.
Poorest rich person, and I immediately thought of you, Nick. I'm like, you are probably the poorest rich person I know.
Yeah, see?
Thanks.
There's always
Thanks,
one
man.
in the room.
And that's a compliment, right? I mean, like the doers are the ones, because you guys are I found in investing, nobody has an off switch in any of this stuff, right? We all just keep going, and then by the time we realize we're too far in, we are very far in. Like, oh, I should have
Yeah.
stopped a while ago.
Yeah. Like, woo, I have a 200 grand. Let's spend it right now.
Yep,
Yeah.
Or I already spent it, so
yep, it's gone. It's
pay
on
it
two other
off.
projects. So,
Yeah.
all right, I'm not going to butcher this. So we have some predetermined wind down questions. Every time I say
Oh.
random, and I did it right this time. Rockstar Jeremy in the house today. So, Leka, real quick, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate you being on. But we're going to talk about just some quick wind down questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
If you had one business or investing book you recommend every single investor read, what would that be?
The book that I actually love,
Hmm.
I really love, is a book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner.
That's a very good one.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
I've read that one a couple times, and what's cool is, actually, real quick, Brandon actually lives in our town now, and I found myself going to dinner with Brandon Turner like a month and a half ago, and I'm like, what happened? Why am I here?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. I love this business.
Awesome.
So, next question is: if you were gifted $30 million to one of your bank accounts, what's the first thing you would spend it on?
Buying real estate.
Easy enough. We're
Good enough
done.
answer.
You don't have any like passion projects you do?
I do. I'm in the middle of so many cool projects. One of them is, an event space that I just started in Seattle, and I would snazz that thing up
I
with
love
$30
it.
million. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And this one is particularly for the newer person. What advice would you give somebody looking for their first or second deal?
Go read Ashley Kerr's book,
Uh huh.
The Rookie Investor, the Real Estate Rookie Investor. That's such a good book for someone that's just getting started. That's a $30,000 education right there in that one book.
Hmm.
But then go to networking events, talk to people. You never know who's got your next big golden nugget. So
I
go
love
talk to
that.
people.
How would you define success, Leica?
I think just having the time freedom to
Hmm.
spend with your kids, go on cool vacations, spend with your friends and family, that's important.
The time freedom for sure. I love that. And then when you're not investing, what do you like to do with your free time?
I travel a lot.
Uh huh.
I fly off to cool, unattainable countries where I'm mostly not reachable.
Hmm.
So yeah, travel and food, my two passions.
Travel and food. It's how we should be spending our time for sure.
Yeah.
Next question for you is: where can people find out more about you, or if they want to get in contact with you or follow along with your doing? How can they do that?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. My handle is just Leka Devatha, or LinkedIn, also Leka Devatha. That's it.
Easy peasy.
Alrighty.
Well, cool. Well, Leica, definitely thank you so much again for joining us today on the Investor Shed podcast. We really appreciate it. I always get a ton of value out of when you speak, and if anybody listening ever gets the chance to hear you speak live, it's really cool, and it's just fun to hear your passion speak through about what you're doing. So definitely don't miss that, and catch Leica at BPCon and probably all the other events she's hosting. So
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Nick.
Yep. Thank you so much for being on. And
awesome.
we'll see everybody next week. Later.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.